Welcome back to another episode, chat, talk, whatever you want to call it, with Michael Baker from Custom Bike Fit. So we're having our weekly chat, although it may be about 10 days, just on how things are going with Michael and his progress towards Hervey Bay 100 in 3 weeks now, just a bit over 3 weeks. So we've been working together for 4 or 5 weeks now. So things are progressing well, I would like to say, going very well. Michael's feeling fitter and stronger. And today we're going to have a chat a little bit away from training, still training, but not so much the physical side of things. But before we do that, we'll just touch on the program for this week and how things are going for Michael. Firstly, mate, how's things going generally?
Yeah, good. Haven't missed any sessions since day one. A little bit of fatigue this week, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit tireder this week. I think just, if anything, I really noticed the difference in the strength session that we did on Tuesday, which I have to do again today. That was a bit of a struggle on Tuesday, and I would imagine it'll be the same today. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I'm not running particularly quickly, but I feel like my run progression has come a fair way. I feel a lot more comfortable with my running.
Okay, so sorry, Matt, you go.
Just we've introduced a little bit of intensity in there and turning that up for me as I'm running, turning the intensity up, bringing it back down and recovering very quickly. I do find my recoveries, even though I'm a bit tired, I find my recoveries pretty good.
That sign generally means you're becoming more efficient. So you're not necessarily getting faster, but your body's becoming more efficient at the same speed, which is primarily the goal we want for long course racing. Is we want to become more efficient, conserve energy, and be able to operate at a higher threshold. So, we've introduced a little bit of intensity. In fact, so we'll just jump onto the program for this week. There it is. If you haven't watched any of these videos in the past, so Michael doesn't have Training Peaks. So what I do is just email him through the program, and then he downloads onto Strava, and I can monitor his progress on Strava. But in terms of the actual program for this week, endurance swim on Monday, 6x500, 30 to 45 seconds rest. I think I might just touch on this. You don't always have to have a time cycle in swimming. You can go by rest. Time cycle 1 week might not necessarily be easy the next week. So I think it's more listening to your body and just having rest. But the Monday is an endurance swim with a little bit of intensity, like for instance, 75 easy, 25 lift for 500 meters, and then 75 easy, 25 hard. And then the last one, just to mix it up, is jumping out each 100, and the first 12.5 meters back in the water is hard. And that's kind of like simulating a race where sometimes you have to get out of the water, run up around the beach, and then you'll get back in. And that first bit of the swim back in the water is always hard. Even if you don't want it to be hard, your heart rate is up. Something like that just helps you. It's just a good race simulation type exercise. The easy run, continued on with that, the high cadence and the one-legged drills that we have been doing most weeks on a Tuesday. And then this strength session that you were saying is getting a little bit harder. So what I did this week was 10 push-ups, 10 lunges, 20-second prone hold, and then another 10 push-ups and 10 body squats. So you found that second lot of 10 push-ups hard, didn't you?
Yeah. So I think in total on that session, there were 200 push-ups. And I got to, I think, the 9th rep. So the 9th set and the second set of 10 push-ups, and I was tired.
Very good. See, this is a great little set because you don't need a gym. You can do it in your lounge room, and it works the whole body. Like it just works the whole body, and it doesn't take long. Yeah. It's really time efficient, and it's really good for triathlon.
Wednesday. I do think, something I would have poo-pooed in the past.
Yeah.
And I think particularly as we get older, we do lose a lot of strength. And it's only 5 weeks that I've been doing this, and I do notice a difference. I do feel stronger as a result of these sets of this strength. set that I'm doing. Yeah.
They do help because we lose lean muscle mass after about age 35, and the strength work is good from an injury prevention perspective, but also just overall health. Just lifting,
Yeah.
moving and lifting. And for triathlon, it is a total body sport. So little strength routines like that do help. Wednesday, we had a strength swim, and it was, with this one, 15 by 100 pull paddle on 2 minutes, holding your best average. So what we're doing in that set is trying to improve your threshold. What sort of average were you able to hold for that?
So I did that set in a 25 meter pool. The Monday swim I did in a 50, and then I swam in a 25 on Wednesday, and I was holding 125s.
That's good. That's good. For a set like this, I find if, we're holding about that 30 seconds rest is about ideal for the age group athlete. And you can do one or two things. If you want to be able to swim, say 125s for race day, you bring your recovery down. So you started on 2 minutes, so you come down to 155, 150, 145, and so on. Or you add more reps. So you go 2100s.
Yeah.
It comes back to time and also the overall balance and volume of the swim. So if you're already swimming 2.5, 3K and you don't have time to do more, well, then you bring the recovery down and you'll get a training effect where we're lifting your threshold, which is that ability to swim faster for longer. And that's something we can test as we go. And this was the first run session where we'd done any level of intensity. So the 2 minutes at 10K race pace. So with the heart rate getting up a bit, how did you find that?
Yeah, I found the change of pace I found manageable. It was, it wasn't too much of a stress on my system. Again, I'm not running particularly quickly, but to lift it for the 2 minutes and then to bring it back down was easy. Do you know if you know what I'm saying? It's not as if I was like, and I was realistic. I think because there's a lot of repetition, I'm realistic about what can I hold. I can run quicker for the 2 minutes, but I'm thinking, well, what would I really be able to hold for 10 kilometers if I was to do a 10K run right now?
And that's the biggest mistake people make, is they overestimate their current fitness, and instead of holding 10K race pace, they'll go out and they'll realistically be holding 3K. And so they're extending themselves, overreaching a little bit is the primary issue. And what we'll do, I mean, there's not a lot of time between now and race day, but then it becomes 3 by 3 minute, and then 3 by 4 minute, and you slowly, and you hold the recovery. And we're just trying to improve your threshold or your VO2 max, your ceiling, but we're doing it incrementally. And that, only 3 by 2 minutes, for an athlete of your experience is not a lot, but you're coming back into it. So if we were to do more, the risk of injury is a little bit high. And then looking at the rest of the week, obviously you had a bike this morning, the sprints with 2 hours in the hardest gear to build strength and a little bit of neuromuscular power, another strength set. Tomorrow is some fast 50s. And then for the first time on the weekend, we've gone up to 3.5 hours instead of 3 hours, but we're putting in some 10-minute efforts at proposed race pace intensity for Hervey Bay. So what we're doing there is we're dialing your body into how you want it to feel on race day, at about that. And so that's just doing that little bit of race pace work closer to the race is really, really good, really ideal. And then, so that's after 2 hours, 2 hours easy, then 3 by 10 minutes at proposed race pace intensity with easy 10 minutes between. And then the last 30 minutes, you could feel really good. And, I'll often tell athletes, just go by how you feel. If you feel good, push it hard. If not, take it easy. And that's learning to listen to the body. And then on Sunday, a super easy run, but we've gone up from 60 to 75 minutes. So we're just starting to add a little bit of volume, a bit more stress. And then you said before, you're feeling a little bit tired. Well, that's why we've just added a little bit more to the program. But at this point, it's a good stress in that you're still able to complete the sessions well.
Last Saturday was a longer bike.
That's right. We did 3.5 hours last week. We did.
We did do 3.5 hours. And we did 2 10-minute efforts.
Yeah. So we've upped it. Yeah. Okay.
At around that 70.3 or over 70.3 effort, what I did. But yeah, the 3 this week, I think will be, another step up, another challenge. And particularly and I definitely finished that session last week feeling as though I could give more. And I was quite, not that the speed is important, but I was quite, I think I averaged 33, 34 kilometers an hour for the, and I think that's the result of that big gear work. At the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I would agree. So 2 things I want to touch on. We haven't, the first one is, I'll stop the share screen and we'll just go back to normal. Being present at each session. So everyone, let's look at it from an elite perspective. Everyone at the elite level in triathlon swims hard, bikes hard, and runs hard, and they train well. They do lots of training. But those that really get the level of success, that are at the pointy end, are the ones that are fully engaged in the session at that time. So, it's not necessarily the physical ability that separates the very best at the top. It's the psychological ability and that ability to engage in every session. So how does that relate to an age grouper, do you think, in terms of, age groups are all busy, and, you said, we've had conversations, we've said, I've got to get this done because I've got stuff on. And we're always thinking about what we've got to do next. And when that's happening, we're not really engaged in the session. The challenge then becomes, if we're not engaged in the session, we're not getting the full benefits from it. So from your perspective, I mean, you've got a very successful business, you're busy, you've been training for a long time. When you're at a session, what do you do to fully engage?
Well, the first thing is for me that I've invested my trust, if you like, in you. So rather than I'm going to do whatever, and this is what I've been doing for the last few years, is I'm going to do what I want to do and I'll make it up on the fly. Number one. It's okay, I've been prescribed this session. It's number one. Okay, so I'm going to the pool, or I'm going to go running, or I'm going to go biking. What is the content in there, right? This isn't just go out and ride your bike or just go and swim. There's some specificity in there. So I'm thinking about the specificity, and then I'm thinking, well, and what are you trying to achieve? Obviously, I've been around a long time. I've been doing triathlon for 28 years. So I have a fairly, you put some stuff into the program itself, and I have an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. So it's sticking to what's being prescribed.
And the key
to the point where doing things that, like you said, I'm not comfortable standing in the pool having a 30-second rest, because my brain starts ticking. And I've done 2 sessions now where you've prescribed for me running on a soft surface. And at first I was like, where am I going to go? There's an oval across the road, And the thought of running around an oval does my head in. But running around, there's a discipline involved in that. Right? And what I found was, I did it the first time and I went, actually, I got a lot out of that, not just from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective, because it taught me something. So this week I went back to the oval. And I don't get quite, I'm not going to get quite as agitated in the pool when I'm waiting 30 seconds, because I know there's a reason why. And when you see that repeatability, 125, it's comfortably uncomfortable. Yep. Bang, bang, bang. They're the sort of things I need reinforcement. So, and then just because you see progression as well, there's even more reason to, what if I'm going to invest the time, let's do this properly.
And there's a few key messages there. The first one is seeing the results. So, like the clock, and that's the dopamine hit. Your brain's just getting a hit of dopamine. And so then the motivation comes, and you're like, well, and you're feeling the benefits of the program. So there's a general overall feeling that you're getting stronger and you're liking 125, 125, 125. That shows to you that, okay, I am getting okay. And if it was going 125, 127, 128, 129, well, then I'd have to adjust the session. So the first one is you're getting the dopamine hits with the feedback. The second one is the trust factor, I think, is massive. The placing the trust in the program is really, really important. If you don't trust the program or the person writing it, well, then you've got nothing. What will happen is you'll second guess it and go off and do your own thing. And the third one is, you think about it, if you're not completely engaged in the session and you don't know what the outcome of the session is. So, is it a threshold swim? Is it an easy run? For instance, I wanted you to run on soft surface. That being the reason for that is you recover better. It's not as much impact on our body as compared to running on a hard surface. So I'm looking to make sure your recovery is as good as possible so you can back up for the next session. So the outcome, the goal for that session is to be able to recover well, achieve an aerobic adaptation, and then be able to do the next session. So, and it's comfortably uncomfortable. There's a lot of things there. And I think athletes, as long as they know, okay, well, what's the goal of the session? How am I going to do it? And then being engaged in the session throughout the whole session in its entirety, not worrying about what you've got to do after you get out of the pool and not worrying about what you've done before the session, focusing on what you've got to do there and then. And if you can do that every session, the cumulative effect on that is unbelievable. Having that consistent engagement where the outcome is achieved, in multiple sessions, well, then that's going to come through on race day. And in some ways it's, just from your perspective, how much of triathlon long course racing would you say is psychological?
Oh, I mean, it'd be difficult to put a percentage on it, but it's massive.
So let's just say it's really important. So probably more than 50% of it will be psychological. Yeah. So then the next question is, how much of people's training do they put in the psychological side of things?
Very little, I think.
Exactly.
For the majority.
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time physically preparing. Anytime you ask anyone that question, they say, well, yeah, it's massive. Psychological side of things is massive. Well, how much time do you allocate to the psychological side of training and race preparation? Not much. And one thing you can do, one skill you can do to improve that is being engaged in the session. Because on race day, you want to be engaged in the moment. You want to be present in the moment. And a good performance, it's just a whole lot of moments put together. A good training preparation is a whole lot of training sessions put together. And the more someone is engaged in every session every day, the better. And that I think that's the key. And the other thing I asked you to start looking at this week was a little bit of imagery and visualization. So when you're on your training rides and runs and swims, picture yourself and feel yourself performing to your ability. And you're painting that new reality into the subconscious, because it doesn't know fact from fiction. These are the things I think where age groupers can make the biggest gains. Yes, you've got to train properly and do the, good structure and recovery and all that. But all things being equal, that's where the real performance benefits are going to come from.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you were speaking just then, I was thinking, past experience, 28 years in the sport, races that have gone really well, preparations that have gone really well. And generally, if the preparation has gone well, you get a decent outcome. Generally, not always. Sometimes you get thrown a few curveballs. But on race day, so two things: training, taking those cues, listening to your body, taking those cues, adjusting, making small adjustments. If you're not doing that, if you're not engaged, when it gets to race day, you don't have that skill and the ability to be able to do it. It is so important on race day to make those little changes. They can be so subtle.
Absolutely.
Listening to your body. Is this realistic? You know what I mean?
The intuition, our intuition.
Yeah. And if you can make those tiny, those little changes, it's that autocorrect. I'm going off track, come back. I'm off, come back. You can be off track a lot of the time, but if you're getting the right feedback, you'll end up where you should be going.
Absolutely. The good analogy is driving a car. We all know how to drive a car. Now, when we started driving a car, there was a lot to think about. Putting on our seatbelts, checking the mirrors. If you're driving a manual car, changing gears, multiple pedals, looking in mirrors, all sorts of things. Whereas now it's automatic. And sometimes, you know, how many times have you got in the car and driven somewhere and not even, "Oh, how did I get there?" Not engaged in the process. And then that's how accidents happen on the road. Even though it's an automatic thing for us to do, you still got to be engaged in the process of driving, and that being aware of what's going on around you with other cars, pedestrians, cyclists, traffic lights, roundabouts, all that type of thing. So we've got to be engaged in the process, because that's when an accident can happen. Exactly the same thing in training and racing. We can get into autopilot too much. So it is about, at the start of the session, just, okay, breathing for a minute. What is my goal here today? All right, I've got a hard interval session. I've got to do 3 2-minute reps at 10K race pace. All right, what is my 10K race pace realistically? Yep, it's going to be this. And then going and achieving that. And if you do that, it's a simple process, but if you do that, the effects on race day are phenomenal. But it's people are probably getting a little bit too lost in the how and the what, which is important. But today I really want to get that message across. You know, be engaged in the session, understand what you're doing, and then work hard to achieve it.
I think also, if you do, you know, when you're being coached and you have a program, sticking to that program rather than training with others. Because, and I've done one session since we started together. I did one ride a couple of weeks ago with some other things. And you get dragged into what they're doing. You need to be part of that. And I think if you do this too often, on race day, you get dragged into other people's races as well. Oh, there goes Bob. Shit, I better go with Bob.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
When
maybe next week we can talk about group versus solo training, and they both have their benefits. It's just a matter of putting it in at the right places in the program. Everyone is different. You know, some people just want to train by themselves all the time, and they can do that. Whereas others need the connection in the community. And it's about, okay, well, what type of sessions with the group are going to work? And typically where most people go wrong is, like you say, they get sucked into what other people are doing, and on their easy rides or easy runs, they become too hard because they go at other people's paces. All right. Another good week. So we're on track, which is good. Three and a bit weeks to go. So it'll be pretty much status quo for the next couple of weeks, and then just a slight freshen up taper into race week.
Okay, cool.
All right. Good one, mate.
Thanks, Mark.